Welcome, 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 and good morning from Chicago. I am Carol C.C. Miller, your positive life strategist, peace activator, and global hugger, coming to you with another episode of Embrace Your Life Chats, where we focus on heightening celebrations and lessening sorrows through a positive focus. Today, the first and third Tuesdays of the month, I love them because I have a group panelists, and we're having some challenges getting people in today. So you might see new faces pop up here and there. I just see a couple coming in right now. So let them in. I'll introduce you to them in just a moment. But as always, I like to let people know who are joining for the first time a little bit about me. And one thing is, I am not an absolutist. I'm not a big fan of the words always or never. You should do this. You have to do this. There's 7 billion people on this planet. I can't begin to know exactly what is best for them. So I work on the majority of the time. So 0 to 100, 0 being always negative, 100 being always positive, and I breathe, coach, speak about positivity, and I'm not 100% positive all day long. But I do stay in the 80 to 100% of the time, the majority of the time, because of my daily practices. So fear visits me, doubt visits me, frustration visits me. With getting everybody on this morning was a little frustrating. So it those things visit me, but because of my daily practices, they don't last as long as they had in years past before I started having a daily practice of on who I want to be in this world and how I want to show up in this world. So want to make sure of that. And today we're talking about the power of words. I am a big word person. I am a word sensitive person. So some words hit me a lot harder than they would other people. So I don't use those words, but we're going to talk about our favorite quotes today. And I do want to put a caveat that, some of the quotes, like I know one of my favorite quotes is some people will say he did not say that or somebody else said that. So I'm not about to say these are definitely spoken from that person. It's where I heard it from that person. And it's the intent behind the words more than it is the person who spoke them first or second or third. So, welcome, welcome to my panel here today. And what I'm going to ask each one of you to do, and I will start. My picture is so small on seeing you guys. I'm going to start with Lara and just briefly tell us a little bit about who you are. Then we'll go to the next person, and then we will start with the quotes. And everyone who is joining us, please, if you have a favorite quote, put it in comments and tell us why you enjoy it. And we will include that in the conversation. So, welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. I know quotes are so much fun. I can't wait to see people's quotes in the comments. So, hi, I'm Lara Pugh. I am an intuitive as well as an intuition expert and best-selling author. I'm very passionate about helping people connect with their intuition in addition to doing the readings that I do every day.
Excellent. Thank you. April, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Carol, for asking me to join all of you today. I'm a transformational life design coach, and I'm a best-selling author and speaker, and I'm a mom. I'm also the creator of the Self Priority Project and the Spiritual Mom Babe group, so you can find those online. But I love words. I'm very word sensitive as well, so I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Carol.
Excellent. Ellen? I can't hear you, Ellen. So take a moment and figure that one out, and we'll go to Janeel and see if we can hear her. I had that problem yesterday, Ellen, when I started my live by myself. I was just kind of like, if you can read my lips, it'll work. But Janeel?
Yeah, Ellen's mic shows muted. That's why.
Okay. So go
So
ahead,
if
Janeel, and then we'll come back to Ellen.
I'm Janelle Hugh. I'm Molokai Mystic. I'm a Reiki master, animal communicator, and I'm just so glad to be here with you all. I love words and I love quotes, so excited today.
Excellent. Thank you for joining again. Ellen, are you with us?
I don't know. Am I with
You
us?
are. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. And, I guess it was an opportunity to practice presence and patience because I love technology and technology loves me. That's my mantra.
We're going to use it as a quote from Ellen Jones here.
Yes, I love technology. Actually, I think, yep, Sunny may have created that one for me at one point. That I am Ellen Elizabeth Jones. I am a spiritual teacher, best-selling author, as well as um, soul oracle. Most of all, I'm just walking this path and creating community and sacred spaces for those to experience and expand.
Beautiful. I love that. And thank you for being here. All of the ladies with us today have been on other panels, so it's nice having you back. And of course, you're always welcome for each one of the panels I do. And I know you've signed up for other ones as well. So, Lara, give us and wait, let me see. I just posted Sylvia, Louise Hay's affirmations are some of my favorites. All is well, life loves me. Yeah, I definitely use a lot of her work in my work, so it's a great one. But Laura, what's one of your favorite quotes and
Um,
why?
so the one that I really live by has a little story behind it. So I knew as an acquaintance this woman who had a near death experience, and when she died, she kind of went down the tunnel and the whole thing. And she said, "No, I want to come back." So they said, "Yes, you can go back." Okay. So anyway, she goes, "But wait, before I go back, like, what is the meaning of life? Like, why are we even doing this?" And they said, "Who are you loving? Who do you love?" I get such chills even every time I say that quote. So I love that quote because it reminds me, like, that's the purpose that we're here.
Mm, that is beautiful. I like that one. April, how about you?
Well, my first one that I brought with me today is actually from my first spiritual teacher that I met here in Austin over 20 years ago. And he had a weekly satsang, which is a meditation group every week. And I would go and I would sit and join him and a number of others in meditation. And he would always say to us that we only ever talk about ourselves. And that really resonated with me because it's another way of saying that it's another way of talking about projection and how when we're talking about we think we're talking about others and what others should do or what others should feel or we tend to project our experience onto others. um, it's a way of really pointing the finger back at us and knowing that we are really only talking about ourselves here. It's not about anybody else out there. And in fact, he would say, if you're seeing anyone else out there, then you're missing something. And what he meant by that is you're seeing the separation. You're
Mhm.
seeing someone that's not you. You're not seeing yourself in another person. You're not seeing the wholeness in all this. So when you are talking with someone, giving them advice or anything of that, just remember we are only ever talking about ourselves.
Oh, I love that. And ladies, if any of these quotes from others are something that inspires you to speak about, please jump in because it's a conversation at this point. So I was just kind of going round robin to make sure everybody got to share some of their quotes. And we got a lot of great quotes that are being popped up in comments too that I'll share in just a
Yes,
moment.
others.
I
So
have a comment on that one. I love that because I mean, I've noticed in my life that people's opinions of me, it always reflects like kind of where they're at in their life.
Right.
Like I, and it's hard because like we're all sensitive on this call, right? And tuning in, and so it's like when someone digs on you or says something negative, it's like it can hurt, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I now know what's going on inside of you, so now hurt. But yeah,
yeah, I think that's a great point because it, like you just said, it can still hurt you as the individual, but when you know that it is the connection, it kind of takes that sting away and you realize it is the projection. But I think that takes practice, April, and I love that one, but it's something that I definitely need to remind myself of all the time.
Well, yeah, for sure. It does take practice. It's a daily practice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can watch the news and constantly just say to yourself, we only ever talk about ourselves. It's a way to not let yourself get triggered by
Yeah.
what you see out there. Or when somebody, I remember my mom had passed away and moved to Santa Fe or to Arizona, and I was going to move to Santa Fe. We were both in Illinois, right by you, Carol. And my brother in California said, "No, April, you should move. You should move to Arizona and be my mom. She can't take care of herself." And like, he was going on about all this, and what I was able to see was that he was really only talking about himself. He was nervous that she would not be able to survive. He was afraid that he wasn't going to be able to show up for her in the way he would have liked. He
Yeah.
wanted someone else to do what he would have liked to have done, and was feeling guilty about it. So he was projecting that on me and framing it in such a way that if you're not aware, you could take that personally, and you can start to question yourself if you're not aware that people are really only ever talking about themselves, and so are you. And so when we take that ownership of, these are my thoughts, this is my thinking, this is my trigger right now, and
Right.
therefore this is my work. And then you can go off and do the work and come back with what you've got and see what's left, right? So
Yeah.
definitely a daily practice. And my kids, unfortunately and fortunately, know this one. But my daughter, who's a teenager, likes to try to use it against me. So if I say something like, please be mindful about how you're speaking to your brother, she'll say, we only ever talk about ourselves. So it's a household saying here, but sometimes they need to learn the nuances about it
Yeah,
as
exactly. And Sylvia just shared, and this is a great win as well,
well.
Sylvia. Comparison is the thief of joy, Eleanor Roosevelt. And it's I mean, you can't say much more than that, because when we're comparing ourselves to others, we're no longer in our own power. We're in the power of someone else. And
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
easy to compare ourselves to others, but it's like taking your power back. Um, Ellen, what is one of your quotes?
Hi. So, I have lots of quotes because
Me too.
inspiration. I love them. I love the quotes and continue learning from people who have gone before me. And uh, today, the one that is speaking to me is from Neil Donald Walsh. And it's, the deepest secret is that life is not a process of discovery, but a process of creation. You are not discovering yourself, but creating yourselves anew. Seek, therefore, not to find out who you are, seek to determine who you want to be. And for me, that's powerful reminder that we're all creating. We are creators in everything that we think, say, do, and believe.
Yeah.
And it also puts the responsibility back to me. What am I creating? What words am I speaking? Abracadabra means I create what I speak. And so being mindful of the self-talk that we do,
Yeah.
and really it goes to what your platform shares in every way. What are we creating? Are we creating a space for people to feel safe and loved and nurtured as we are co-creating? Because I continue to see this as we are evolving every moment we're creating.
I love
So
that. It's beautiful. How about you, Janelle?
Um, I have one. Well, we all have a lot, right? uh, but this one, it really struck me as both a self reminder for self action and also for when we help people grow, because we're all both student and teacher. So
Right.
this one is by Arthur Ashe, and it's start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And so it's a reminder for myself that don't compare where this other person is.
Yeah.
Where you're at, where you're starting from is right where you need to be. And what you have is enough. and just do what you can, because that movement, no matter how big, no matter how small, will always get you where you need to go. But it also reminds me as a teacher to meet the student where they're at, not where we think they should be,
Yeah.
you know? And that's where they're going to get their the the benefit of who they are, and they will learn that where they're at too is right where they need to be. So
I think that's a great example, not only just like even the student teacher relationship, but just friendship. I know I tend to see the highest good in people, and then I might get disappointed because I'm not allowing them to show up as where they are right now. I see so much better for you, and it's like no, they're where they need to be, and you get to decide. I get to decide what kind of relationship I'm going to have with them wherever they are. But I tend to see their bigger selves when right now they're not showing up in that. And then it's just my own issue of being disappointed that they're not being who I see them to be. They're being exactly who they need to be in the moment, but I'm seeing something different for them. So it's really about staying in that, letting people show up where they are, and then you decide what kind of relationship you want to have with that because of the situation.
That's a
I'm good.
beautiful example, Carol, because if we don't allow people to be who they are right now, then we start to cause other problems,
Yeah.
right? Because of that lack of ownership of, wow, this is what I'm seeing in them. And instead of moving into judgment that they're
Right.
not where we think they should be, it's a great process for us to continue to look at ourselves, and everything is just such a mirror for us to really look into how we are showing up with who we are with in that moment, and even with ourselves. And I
I
think,
was just gonna say that, yeah.
I go back to being a parent. I am where I need to be, and my kids are where they need to be. They are right in the perfect place. They have all the resources necessary to effectively deal with what's going on and where they're going. And they will be guided as I have been guided, and I can trust that. And I can sit back and allow the unfolding to happen. And then when I feel called to step forward and try it out, but then continue to listen, right? So that
Yeah.
we're not forcing anything, but then continue to contribute. But one of my teachers has always reminded me of enhance everything, disturb nothing.
Mm.
And it's kind of a takeoff of what Janeel is saying, is meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
You can support them right where they are and enhance that. And don't disturb that path. Don't, don't get in their way. They are right where they need to be.
And sometimes disturbing their path is like not allowing them to experience, and it might not be the
Yeah.
best experience too, because you can see a different way to it. But and that's something I've had to, and I'm much better at it now, but I've always been the savior person. Like Carol's going to take care of whatever problem you bring to her. And I've had to realize like sometimes people want that help, and helping them through the problem is fabulous. Sometimes people want to stay in that story, and I'm pushing them through to help, and then that's not helping them or me. So that's been a big life lesson for me on even coaching. It's like to make sure it's people who are really ready to move forward rather than just keep continuing their story. And if they need to continue that story, that's where they need to be. And when you said something about even for ourselves, that's definitely like when I get into I need to do more. I need to help more people. And like, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. So I have to remind myself of where I'm at and what I'm doing is enough for this moment and maybe the next moment. And we'll see from there. But I think those are all great. Rachel, I'm going to put yours up, and I need you to comment on it because I have not heard this quote. So if any of you have heard this one, we can all too easily become what we are called, with all the unwelcome responsibilities a title make us heir to. Maya Angelou. Um, you're nodding your head, April. Do you have any thoughts on that one? That's a Maya Angelou one I have not heard before.
It's a profound quote for sure.
Yeah.
And thank you, Rachel. Rachel should be on this call as a
Where
speaker
are you,
here.
Rachel?
Where are you? I think, if I'm understanding it, I think that's something that you can continue to dissect and continue to peel the layers away with that one.
Yeah.
All the unwelcome responsibilities of being called. It's, I heard someone say this the other day and I could really resonate with it. When you have a spiritual experience or a spiritual awakening, for example, it's not all the stars and the glitter and the heaven stuff and then
What?
the dream. It's actually quite dense. It's really potent, and it can really reveal to you and reflect back to you all those what it says unwelcome responsibilities, the all the ways that we're not being who we are meant to be.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of reflection of showing us what's in our way, and if we're not paying attention to that, we veer off course.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
can you post that again, or is it in the Facebook group? I'd like to see it
It
again.
it is here, I'll post it again.
Sylvia's got some great ones going on in the
I
Facebook.
know it, and just so
Original.
everyone knows that I have a very small window of comments. So if I'm missing somebody's, I apologize. I'm trying to get to them all, but it does not show everyone's comments. And I was just gonna um, I'm hope I'm saying your name right. Milagros. I don't know who to attribute this to, but I love that words can trap
Yeah.
us or free us. And and even in words, because I'm very word sensitive and I'm a big believer in once spoken, they now have life. So because I'm such a believer in the power of words, that's not usually my tool to harm people because I know how strong words can be, but it really is the emotion, the feeling behind the word that you attribute it to. And I also believe there's a collective consciousness to certain words. Like a certain word may not trigger you, but collectively, it is a word that triggers the majority of people. So I think it's something to pay attention to as well. And I'll just say two of mine really quickly because they're both ones that I started Positive Focus with. And the one is the one that I hear all the time. He did not say that. So, be the change you want to see in the world, Gandhi. Uh, it very much for me goes back to show it if I want more kindness in the world, to be kinder in my world. If I want more love, compassion, and peace, to start with me. Unfortunately, I can't change other people, but I can change me and I can change the way I respond rather than react to different things. And then the second one was never underestimate the power of a small group of committed people to change the world. In fact, it is the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. So both of those were about what I started Positive Focus with. And the fact for that one, it can be so overwhelming when you look at issues that are going on in the world or possibly in your own life that it's easier to ignore, pretend they're not there, and just step away. But when you just take small steps and even sharing your smile and a kind word with a stranger, holding a door open, all these little things, you don't know the impact it has on that person. That person may have been at their wits' end that day, and your smile made them realize that somebody saw them and they mattered in the world. So, those are two of my favorite quotes that I rely heavily on. So, Laura, back to you while I look for some more comments here on quotes.
Okay, so here's the quote that drives my work of teaching intuition, which is by Dr. John DeMartini, who I had him as a client a long ages ago. I would have never read his books had he not been a client. So I'm very grateful for all that. But he says, when the vision on the inside matches the vision on the outside, you have begun to master your life. So just, speaking to that, listening to your inner voice and honoring it. And, because people will be in your ear all the time, giving you advice, selling you something, giving you their opinions. And it's important to be in touch with that inner voice that's trying to lead you on, remind you why you were here.
I love that. And I
Yeah.
think it's so important because that inner voice, that knowing is so important because I do like to ask different people their opinions and things like that about, maybe it's something I'm doing business or personally, but still at the end of the day, it's my decision. I like to hear um, what other people might say. And sometimes I don't want to know what other people say and I just do it regardless. But I do like to get other people's opinions and then through that make my own judgment on it. But it's very easy not to listen to ourselves.
Right.
I like your quote in that I'm hearing it in the way of, if my inner voice or my inner visions match what's out here, it brings about a mastery to it. Because if I've been telling myself, I am this, or I want this, or I create this, or I do that, and it reflects on the outside of me, it's showing up in my world, or I've created it, it shows how congruent that I am and that my energy is congruent. And so I always say that if you want to know what your beliefs are, take a look at your environment, because it'll show you what you've made okay, what you believe in, and what you value. And if you want something different, then of course we got to go inside. And so the quote is really powerful because it does demonstrate a level of mastery. If you have on the outside of you what you've had on the inside, and that you are somebody who can to align your energy in such a way that it creates on the outside. That way you are a manifester through the energetics of what's available to you. It's a beautiful quote.
I love that one.
I hadn't that perspective, but it's like what's on the outside is giving us that information. It's giving us that feedback, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
I love it.
Milagros just shared, which I'm hoping I'm saying your name properly, first of all, but I actually was going to, this was one of the quotes that I was considering sharing, and it's by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. That is definitely a favorite quote. And this is one of the quotes that gets attributed to Nelson Mandela a lot because he actually quoted her book in one of his speeches. And so he did quote this, but it was through her book. So it's just interesting how, I mean, I don't know that there's any new thought out there. They're just kind of repurposed and reused. And when I can, I try to attribute them to the person who created it, if I know that. But it's just fascinating to me. Ellen or Janeel, what would, or no, I think it's April. April, what's your next quote?
Yeah, the next one that that came forward for me to bring to today is actually by my second spiritual teacher, who I kind of jokingly say, like, he's not of this planet. He lives out in the woods and builds his own house and makes his own water, like probably creates his own electricity. Like, he's that kind of, he looks like Einstein, and he looks like the guy from Back to the Future, Doc. So he's a little like that. I worked with him for 10 years, and what a consistent message to me was that you are where you put yourself. You are where you put yourself. And that is not only, it's on all realms, right? So on the physical level, I am in this room because I put myself in this room. But if I'm in this room and I'm putting myself in a story of unworthiness based on something that happened in the past, then that's where I am. That's truly where I am. So where I am at in my consciousness is where I am centered. Wherever I'm centering myself is where I'm going to show up and how I'm going to see the world. So, you know, when my daughter came downstairs yesterday morning, and she woke up sad. Nothing in life was good. She was where she put herself, despite the rest of us seeing otherwise. So it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's where we are putting ourselves. And I think it's a really important meme to take with us so that we can know to create our experience by where we're putting ourselves. And that's through meditation or any kind of other ways that we feed ourselves and feed our minds and our spirits and our energy, so that we are energy rich. And if we're energy rich, then that's how we will see it. And that's where we have put ourselves. So I hope that makes sense. But It's not something you'll find in a book, but it's something that really resonated with me for a very long time.
I think it's wonderful, and it's interesting because it's there are people out there who have had horrific things happen in their lives, and they not only overcome it but thrive after it. And then there's people who have had little mishaps in their lives, and they are just stuck in that
Yeah,
mishap and can't seem to get out of it. So it really does
true,
go back to, where you see yourself and the ability to
true.
get out of the situation.
Yeah.
So
Well, you mentioned that, and I mentioned this quote to my brother, who is a year and a half older than me, and we're very close. And he was randomly attacked and beaten in 2013 in Rockford, Illinois, and he was left to die in a ditch. We never found the person who did this to him. He's not a my brother is not 100% who he was before. He's got some slurred speech. There's a slight brain injury and some hand motions that he doesn't have control over. But you know what? He doesn't dwell on that incident. He's not still there. He is here where he's putting himself. And he says positive things all the time, not because he's trying, but
right,
because that's truly where he has put himself. He is is here right now, and he's so grateful for a second chance at life. And so he is where he put himself. And I think that goes for the rest of us to constantly think about how we victimize ourselves by viewing the world from a victim stance, and to turn it back on ourselves. I'm putting myself here. Nobody
right.
else is.
Well, and at the time, like, I think sometimes people, for me personally, think that you can't be a victim. And like, he was victimized in that
Yeah.
moment,
Yeah.
but he did not stay in that space of being a victim. So
Right. Right.
things
Right.
happen to us that are out of our, like, I don't have control of the whole world, everyone. I wish I did. But so things happen that I can't control, but I can then move through it with my control of the experience that I've just gone through, kind of
Well
thing.
said, Carol. Well
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
So, Ellen, how about you? What's another one?
So this one is actually one that I wrote journaled that just is very simple. When I am grateful, I find my grace.
Mm.
In that, it's about being in that state of uh, just being aware of what a gift and the abundance and the love and the field of grace that surrounds us all. And yesterday, actually, the last couple of mornings, I woke up a little cranky, and the solution for me was to acknowledge that I was first having these emotions coming up,
Yeah.
let them flow through me. And then I did get to the place where gratitude found me. Started looking around with the focus, with the choice. What can I see right now that is full of goodness? And everything can be, depending on my perspective at the time. And that really goes into one of the ones that I've had to kind of lean into a lot this year.
Mm,
And it's from Anne Lamott. Grace always bats last. It just does. And finally, when the dust settles, which it does, love is sovereign here.
can you say that one again? I missed the beginning, but I
Okay.
love Anne Lamont.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, grace always bats last. It just does. And finally, when the dust settles, which it does, love is sovereign here.
Beautiful.
It reminds me that a lot of what we're seeing is an illusion as well. That many things of what have been said from April. Was that my feedback? April and Laura, and all of us here today, that really our outer reflects our inner. And we're in a process of creation right now. We're creating things with all of our thoughts and all of our focus. Um, But there's grace. There's a field of grace as we're learning and growing.
Yeah, I love that. Was somebody
Beautifully
else
said.
speaking?
I just said beautifully said.
Ah,
Yeah,
anytime you can find gratitude, and when I talk about it, it's like often when we're going through a challenge, we find gratitude on the other side of the challenge. Once we've gotten through, we say, "Oh, I see why I went through that." But when you can find it, the grace and the gratitude within the hard times, it just helps you move through it even more gracefully. So,
for sure. It's a lifeline, right? It's
yeah.
like that rope that comes down. You've got to still go through it, but you're holding on to one focus, which I think is really beautiful. To be able to take yourself through an experience like that with gratitude.
Yeah. And for me, it reminds me that because again, I get into helper wanting to um, save 7 billion people, that I have to remind myself like I cannot be sick enough to heal people. I cannot be poor enough to put, food on their tables and things like that. So showing up in the best light I can and doing what I can from where I'm at is what I can do. But it's really easy to get into that space of um, not helping because you don't think you can help. But again, sharing your smile, a kind word, any of those things is bringing forth grace and gratitude. So, Janeel, how about you? What's yours?
Well, first, I'd just like to touch on all of the words that have been shared. Um, it just reminded me of, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, so Elias can come at me later. But this was something I heard from Elias Patras, and it was, when you say yes, the universe says yes back.
Mm,
And so when you guys were all speaking and sharing these words, that's what was coming to me, because when you say yes in the positive, the universe says yes back. And when you say yes in that heavier energy, the universe also says yes back. So
yeah,
as you guys were all sharing, I was like, yes, the universe is responding. um, but I had two short quotes that they really go hand in hand for me. And the first one is by Vernon Howard, and it's, walk through life as if you have something to learn, and you will.
I
ooh,
love
And
that.
then the one that goes along with that for me is from Aldous Huxley. Experience is not what happens to you, it is what you do with what happens to you. And so, when April was sharing as well with her brother, and yes, this experience happens, but what did you do with it? What was your
yeah,
perspective on it, and how did you create from it? So it allows me to look at my experiences while walking through the desire to learn and see what comes from there. So,
yeah. That's beautiful. And I want to remind everyone who's listening, all of these ladies that are joining me here have done years of work and work on themselves to better understand themselves and move through things. Because when I think of like um, what April's brother has gone through or other things, I 1,000,000% understand how somebody in his situation could be in a why me? Why did this happen? Especially initially, like you need to feel what you need to feel to move forward. So I think it's easy sometimes when we go into the um, how we want to move through the experience, it can sometimes sound a little um, I don't even know the word I want to use. Like, well, that didn't happen to you, so how do you know? Kind of thing where you don't honor that person's feelings of feeling that hurt and pain or shame or whatever they've gone through. I mean, everybody is where they need to be and it's okay. It's just whether or not you're ready to feel a little bit better through the process. But it takes work. And maybe it doesn't. There may be some people who can snap their fingers and they're immediately in gratitude and appreciation. But I think the majority of us work our way into that space, whether we've just started our journey on working or we've been doing it for years. What
Yeah,
makes
I was gonna say, just if I think about the things that I've experienced and losing my parents and almost my brother and almost my son, it's all the work that I did in between those times
Yeah.
that really fed me through those times. And it will help to define who you are through those times. I just took my kids to Starbucks as a treat after a doctor's appointment this morning, and we went to a Starbucks that we used to go to all the time because this guy, the barista there, has been there forever, and he's super positive. And we haven't seen him in a long time. And he said, "Yeah, I just got back. Actually, I've been gone for a year and a half. Um, we had a number of deaths in the family, and I lost this person and that person, and now my wife is sick. But you know what? Life goes on." And he just he's always been like that. So that when this all came onto his plate, he was able to handle this with a lot more gratitude and a lot more positivity, and with that focus of knowing that I'm learning here and I'm growing. And that I think that I truly believe that that's what helps us as a
Yeah.
lifetime through our more difficult experiences that show up, including the pandemic and whatever's to come. Still, I think this is our time to incubate and to really nurture ourselves into a strength that can face adversity in a better way than we ever have before.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I do not remember the studies, but it's been something I looked up many years ago where the majority, again, I'm not going to say everyone, but the majority of us are hardwired for more of a negative mindset for survival. And some people are hardwired already positive. So my guess is like that barista, he probably was hardwired to go through life with that positive focus. And other people, it takes the practice to really hone
Yeah.
it and work with it. But I wish I could find it was a psychology study, but just for
Hmm.
survival of the species, we're tending to what's happening what's going on around us, so we're kind of hardwired to be in that space of concern. So I found that really interesting, and it kind of goes back because I find it fascinating that some people can have really hard things happen in their lives, and yet they turn it around pretty quickly, and other people, seemingly to me, not their experience, seems to be a minor issue, and yet it is a major issue and keeping them stuck in that space. So, um,
Can I
human psyche is interesting to me.
Janelle, or what I love about that first quote is it speaks to humility and leadership. So, before I got into my intuition career, I worked in corporate, I worked in PR, I worked with a lot of leaders. And something about leadership that's not spoken about a lot is humility. And we all here on this call are leaders. You're listening, watching your leader, because we're all at minimum the leaders
It
of life.
very much for me goes back to showing if
Sorry, that was me.
And yeah, so it's like humility in leadership is so important and not spoken about a lot. Yeah, so that's what I just love about that first quote.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. And I think it's the more you're in tune with yourself, the more you're able to find that humility too. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
just fascinating. And
right.
ladies, we are really close to the end because April and I both have a meeting at 12:30 that we need to get to. But I wanted to add my last quote, and this is one of my absolute favorites. And it's actually not Rumi because Rumi, I had like 8 of Rumi's quotes here listed. But let okay, where did it just go? If I don't see it properly, I don't want to say it wrong. Uh, um, Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna find it.
Here's some hold music. Do, do.
Okay, here it is. I knew I could find it quickly on Mr. Google. So, even after all this time, the sun never told the earth, "You owe me." See what happens with a love like that. It lights up the sky. Hafiz.
I love that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites because it goes back to like I can respond back angrily to anger. I can respond however I want to what's coming at me, but if I choose to stay within myself and be that I want to be in the world, then I'm going to respond from that space. And I promise everyone it takes practice. Again, majority of the time, I am loving, kind, compassionate, peaceful, and positive. I'm not that 24/7. Ladies, you have any closing remarks you would like to make before we step out into this world and share some love and kindness with those around us?
I like to always say when I leave my weekly lives in my spiritual mom babes group, do what you love, do it well, and then there will be love.
I love that. Rachel, I need that oracle deck. Rachel just said she has a roomy oracle deck, so
Oh,
I
cool.
think I need that.
That would be a fun to have.
Laura, how about you? Any
I,
closing
you know,
remarks?
if you don't, what I realized when from this call was I have at least one or two or three quotes that actually drive what I do, even though I've never sat down to really think about it. So like if you don't have at least one quote that sort of is your foundation or something that you can kind of refer back to, I would say grab one.
Yeah, I love that idea. I do that because I'm such a big word person.
You're
So
Yeah, I know you love your quotes. Yeah.
I do. Ellen, how about you?
Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. And that's actually a quote from Steve Jobs. That
Mm,
listening to letting your heart lead the way.
I love that. And Janelle?
I thought this would be perfect for my last words. Behind you, all your memories. Before you, all your dreams. Around you, all who love you.
Mm.
Within you, all you need.
Mm.
The author
Oh,
is unknown, but the words are familiar to us all.
Yeah.
I love that. I had one more quote, and my Word document that I had has just crashed, so I don't know it exactly. But it was something about the world is not asking to be saved; it is asking to be loved, and that is what will heal it. And that was also an author unknown. So, ladies, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me again. I so appreciate your time and your energy and your heart and your love. And everyone, I will be back on Thursday. I have two guests, Larry Cohen and Jim Shelby, and they've created a program called Change Makers, which I was involved with last month or 2 months ago. And we're going to be talking about how to create change in your personal lives. And they're going to share they're serial entrepreneurs. They have made a lot of money and they've lost a lot of money, and what they've done in between to stay in that positive mindset. And then our next group chat is the third Tuesday, and it'll be about peace because that is International Peace Day on September 21st. So I hope you join us then. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to come back into comments after my next meeting and look at all the quotes that you've shared. I so appreciate it. I'm a big word person, so this has been one of my favorite Embrace Your Life chats. And remember, you matter. You matter to me. You matter to the world. And most, most, most importantly, you matter to you. So, ladies, thank you. And we will chat again soon. I will be back on Thursday. I hope to see you joining me then. Talk later. Bye bye for now.